Shreya, talk to us about the Jasir that is now being mentioned earlier. Jasir Wani, I understand, backed out as a bomber claiming that suicide bombing is against Islam. Tell us a little more about that as well.
Sneha, this particular person we're talking about, Danish, who was also picked up by the NIA yesterday, will be produced in court today. What investigators say that while he was in the process of radicalization, when he got in touch with Umar, was one of his closest aides, he did back out from the idea of suicide bombing. The reason so, that a lot of hardened, radical, orthodox Islamist terrorists also believe that consumption of one's body by fire is against the basic tenets of Islam. So that becomes a basic understanding into the window of this video that we have accessed of Umar-un-Nabi. What we do understand that this is a classic tactic of reverse psychology, often used by terrorists in radicalizing individuals. Not the first time that investigators who have tracked terrorism have found something similar in Al-Qaeda classrooms, debating the idea of suicide bombing before people are actually radicalized in the same manner, have often been found even in lone wolf self-grooming style. Initially, these ideas are discussed as it is a misconcept, and then it is something which is introduced as a possible sacrifice. So what we see, probably, Sneha, what investigators also believe, is a part of a series of videos that Umar possibly used to radicalize individuals, because as investigation cracks down and as the trail of Umar's connection with other individuals, those young minds that he were recruiting are also getting established. More and more videos most likely will surface, Sneha. What we are seeing is probably a part of a series of radicalization videos that were being used by Umar to recruit individuals and turn them into suicide bombers. He's first using the tactic of reverse psychology, introducing the idea of suicide bombing, questioning the kind of contradictions it has in the society, and possibly then he goes on to justify as sacrifice. As the investigation continues in this matter, we will get more and more clarity on this, but this is a classic case of reverse psychology radicalization that is being used by Umar-un-Nabi to brainwash individuals, to brainwash young minds to become suicide bombers, because that was the initial plan of the terror module, to carry out multiple serial blasts to actually create mayhem in the country.
Suicide blast as well. These would have been suicide killings, Shreya?
Absolutely. These would have been suicide killings, because the idea was actually to make vehicle-borne IEDs and multiple vehicle-borne IEDs, because the kind of ammonium nitrate and the stockpile of explosives that have been unearthed, it suggests that this would have been multiple more attacks carried out across cities. It's still not confined on which all cities it was planned, but this is the plan, that there were multiple serial blasts targeting multiple institutions, institutions of state, institutions of economy, and create mayhem, because it was the D6 operational plan, a double-coded blueprint that we already uncovered yesterday. And today, this video is somewhere down the line giving the glimpse to the entire nation on how radicalization functions. It's not simply introduced to the concept of suicide bombing. You first debate with individuals, get them under your fold, and then you produce them this idea as an idea of sacrifice. It's a reverse psychology radicalization, a technique very often used by terrorists across nations. It's been found in ISIS online grooming sessions. It's been found in Al-Qaeda chat rooms, in lone wolf self-grooming tactics. So clearly, the handlers usually first call suicide attacks as misguided, and then they slowly reframe these as sacrifices. So that is possibly a window, probably one of the first windows that we are getting into this attack, on how Umar-un-Nabi, who was called one of the most radicalized members of the terror module, function to actually brainwash recruits under his fold.
It's just, just so scary at the end of the day, because this is the manner in which Gaurav, he's brainwashing, the perhaps younger population, targeting, younger people to go ahead and do this without any fear. And this is just so shocking, the manner in which this tactic is being used to encourage, suicide bombing. The video, of course, appears just days before the Delhi blast, before the 10th of November. This was shot, rather, before the 10th of November, Gaurav.
So who are the elements that are being picked up? They're doctors, highly educated. They know, they can sift fact from fiction, good from bad, and yet they are the ones who are indoctrinated. Now that Naugam Masjid is in the eye of a storm, because it's the Maulvi of the Naugam Masjid called Maulvi Irfan, who was seen as the person who was indoctrinating some of these young doctors from GMC Srinagar also because that Molvi had worked as a paramedic. However, you would expect doctors to know fact from fiction. They should be able to diagnose, what is wrong, and yet they chose to be a part of the disease and not the cure. Now, that is the troublesome aspect of this indoctrination. Younger minds, influential minds, even though highly educated doctors, they wouldn't be on the radar immediately. Now, they, by showing their lab coat, their stethoscope, and the identity cards, they have so much trust and faith in any part of the society that they would be permitted to go. Lady doctors like Dr. Shaheen Shahid, an MBBS topper, and yet someone who was indoctrinated enough to become the head of the Jaish-e-Mohammad women's wing to radicalize further younger people. So younger people have been used as suicide bombers even in the past, and there's a long history, including that first suicide bombing that had taken place, the attack that had taken place on the Badami Bagh cantonment main entrance immediately after the Kargil War of 1999, and then a series. In fact, even the Pulwama bomber, all these boys are very young, between 19 and 25, bomb makers, bombers, radicalized, and then they don't think twice before, killing themselves. The second case, the Jasir fellow that you were talking about, Jasir alias Danish. Now, Danish may have said, yes, he will not be a suicide bomber. However, Jasir was very happy to rig drones to drop improvised explosive device. So he wants to save his own life, but he wants to kill innocent people. And this is a Hamas-style air and land attack that these terrorists had plotted, because Jasir used to operate drones, the quadcopters in marriages, and of course also take pictures from a mobile camera and a drone camera. So he was rigging those quadcopters to drop improvised explosive devices on the 6th of December. So this D6 plot is a multi-city, multi-pronged offensive by these elements and others, Sneha, who are still out there at large. And that is the clear and present danger that our society faces today.
It's a very, very unsettling video, Gaurav. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now.